Hey everybody, welcome back to another film of the week. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late and of course the new lighting setup. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Hopefully it's suitable, it works. Um, we're gonna make this one a little quick because on one level I'm just basically gonna be praising the film, and for another my battery's about to die. So I only have so much time. So we're just gonna get right into this one. Um, I was looking to do something of science fiction. Next week's film of the week will hopefully be the one uh, that that I initially wanted to do. But for this one, because I was just being lazy, I just couldn't get around to watching the film that I wanted to watch. I figured, well, let's just talk about one of my favorite movies of all time. That movie being Blade Runner, which was directed by Ridley Scott, written by Hampton Fancher and David Peoples. Hampton Fancher, of course, I think would go off to do the sequel, Blade Runner 2049. Um, Based on the novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which, hang on a second, which I actually own. I actually own this book. I've yet to read it. I should probably read it. But yeah, based off of this novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. Um, Starring Harrison Ford as Rick Deckard, who is a Blade Runner, and he's basically a form of law enforcement, a uh, uh, a man. He's in the future, so it's set in Los Angeles of 2019, and there are uh, uh, bioengineered beings, synthetic humans, basically, known as replicants. And Harrison Ford's position as a Blade Runner is to hunt down these replicants and retire them, as they say in the film. Works for the Tyrell Corporation and is tasked to seek out some replicants uh, who may or may not be starting an uprising. So he gets himself entangled with some rogue replicants, some rogue-like characters. Rutger Hauer, who plays the lead replicant, the guy he's after, Roy Batty, I believe is his name. Um, and along the way, he meets a woman named Rachel, who is played by Shang Yun, and they both begin to form some sort of bond. And through this, and through the experience of meeting replicants and all these other things, Rick sort of begins to see his own identity, and comes the big question of the film: is Rick a replicant or is he not? Um, so it's a film that wishes to study more of its character. I mean, the background material is that of replicants and of its, heavy science fiction like aesthetics, which I must say, aesthetically, it is just a thing of beauty. It is just rich with detail, heavy on the gothic tint and aura, which I think the sequel kind of uh, disparages, doesn't uses. Um, and uh, it that leans more on science fiction like elements. But with the original, it's so much more of a gothic like tone, and um, giving more of an emphasis to themes and more of an emphasis to ideas, and less so on style and flair. I mean, style and flair do play a big part into it, but they all are there to inform you, and not more or less just to please you, you know. So, um, and there are, ideas of Blade Runner that resonate and have would be regarded as like tropes now in science fiction about identity and how we perceive things, man versus machine. A lot of ideas uh, that would be utilized in other pieces of science fiction. later on, specifically like Ghost in the Shell took heavy influences on Blade Runner, um, and many other pieces of science fiction that I can point to. But what really brings in the film is three things. One, as I mentioned already, is the tone. I love the gothic setting. I love the the dense nature in its tone. It feels weightful. It has uh, a presence to it that is dark, that is gray, that is like dirty. It has like a rough feeling. Like as noirs usually carry, and uh, I mean, Blade Runner, it can definitely be labeled as a piece of noir, but it's more or less a study of psychology, and a study of of uh, of one's being. So it's more of a study of life in some respects, versus with noirs where it's more about the morality and other factors. But there's definitely suggestions to that of noir. Um, but yeah, the tone is the great thing. For another, performance wise, it's subtle, but it works to its benefit. I think it's one of Harrison Ford's best roles. He really seems to give a shit. Like I said in the past, with I believe I've said of Harrison Ford, is like he has two different types of acting. He has the type of acting where he gives a shit, and then there's the type of acting where he doesn't. A lot of times you see him as the guy who doesn't care, and rarely do you see ones where he does genuinely care about what he's doing. Indiana Jones obviously being a big one for him. And this one, I can tell he definitely cherishes and definitely loved doing. Um, I mean, he even it conducts, in those debates about whether Rick is a replicant or not. He says he is. Ridley will tell you otherwise. Um, I think that they've actually dispelled the whole mystery. I think someone from the production gave a definite answer, which kind of sucks. But um, but the final component that really brings this all the way for me is, of course, the score by Vangelis. It is one of the best scores you will ever hear. It is just orgasmic, just so like mellow, but just also having that again, that noir flavor there. It's not like the dominance of it, but it's there. You can definitely tell it's there. You could smell it, you know. Um, so I mean, I can really go on about it, but it is just a thing of beauty. I mean, it is definitely also like I think I forget who said it. It might have been Chris Stuckman. I don't watch those guys anymore, but when I was younger, he had a good quote for the movie, which was that it's one of those flawed masterpieces. It's a film that you can definitely see is uh, incomplete in total vision. I mean, obviously because of how many uh, what is it cuts of the movie that are out there. I mean, over the years, there's been like multiple cuts of it. Apparently, seven, according to this to the Wikipedia page. I don't know if it's legit or not, but um, the one I saw was the final cut, the last version that they ever did. Um, Now I know that there are other versions out there, specifically like the director's cut. That one I think has like the horse thing, which is a running visual idea throughout the film, specifically towards the end of the film. Um, and and when the movie initially came out, it was also uh, disliked, mainly for what it was trying to do thematically. People just weren't that interested in that type of storytelling that back then. But since then, and with the several cuts that had came with it, um, it eventually developed into this cult like classic. And for me anyway, when I first saw it, I was just blown away. and I absolutely adored it. I watched it in preparation for the sequel, which the sequel is really good as well. It's one of the better sequels in decades. Um, but as I said, 2049 takes away that gothic like mood that the original had, and it's instead is more straight science fiction. Great, science fiction, um, but again, missing that little element. This just has so much more of a depth and so much more of a weight and so much more of a so much more of a of a tension. Like when at the end when Rick encounters uh, Roy, and they're like chasing each other around in that little like hotel area, and he's like shooting up all the other replicants and stuff like that. It's fairly haunting, that scene, just by aesthetic and just by overall craftsmanship. Like it's a film that doesn't like just showcase its science fiction. It's just like putting a bunch of this and that, and making a point to show you the robotics and stuff like that. They don't. That's not the film's concern. What it's concerned more about is um, representation of ideas and really emphasizing the mood within that. You know, like those scenes are impactful because they just are more concerned with representing those ideas than representing the physical nature of the actual like things. You know, like the replicants, they're basically just human, and that's again plays into the whole idea of Blade Runner is that conflict that's within Deckard about who he thinks he is, and it creates that doubt within us as well as the viewer. So, um, so, so yeah. I mean, I can go on about it. I think it's a brilliant piece. I mean, obviously, it's flawed. It's not a complete vision. You can definitely tell. Obviously, with the 7 different cuts out there, it's very apparent that it's not a full, complete vision. Um, I mean, and by story wise, also there seems, I wouldn't say gaps, but it does feel a bit like an odyssey, which is why I also love it. I don't like that. I like that it's not just your standard type of like uh, narrative where it's like point A, point B, point C. It has the beats, but the way that it's utilized, it feels more floaty than just ground level, which does again it makes it known to the viewer that it is a flaw, but it also utilizes it to where it is fundamental and it feels warranted. And I found myself just swept in that, you know. So I echo kind of what Chris Duckman was saying in that it is a flawed type masterpiece, but it is a masterpiece of work. The aesthetics are just beautiful. It is some of the best production design I've ever seen. Performance wise, it's very solid. Narratively, it has stuck with me. It's one of those narratives, those types of stories from a thematic point and just literal, like the idea of replicants, the world at large of Blade Runner, just the whole world, the design of it. It's one of the best, maybe one of the best. I love this world. I love this world. And it's sad to see that they're not doing another Blade Runner. I understand why, because the last one didn't perform well. But man, I would love to see more of this world. So, um, and I heard recently that Ridley Scott apparently regretted not doing the second movie. Um, Given Ridley Scott's track record recently, I'm happy that he didn't do the second one. Um, but for how he was back then with stuff like Alien that he just did, he was in his prime, and Blade Runner is another example of just the 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 greatness that was Ridley Scott, which was near the beginning of his career. In Alien, Blade Runner were just the examples of that, of Ridley Scott's power as a director. So I adore this movie. I love it. I wouldn't say it's my favorite piece of science fiction. Um, I don't know. Maybe I said that at the beginning. That was a mistake. Um, I it's not one of my favorite piece of science fiction, but as a world, as a just an aura, I can watch this like ad nauseum. I love this movie. Um, it's one of my favorite movies of all time, and it was a huge influence when I was like working on short films and stuff like that. I love this movie, and I would argue it's probably Harrison Ford's best character. I would argue it's probably his best character. Indiana Jones is great fun, but in terms of overall character, Rick Deckard has a special place for me. Um, and yeah, so absolutely love the movie. Absolutely love it. One of my favorites of all time. So so those are my thoughts on Blade Runner. I love this movie. Um, the description of a flawed masterpiece is a perfect description for Blade Runner. It is a movie that clearly is not complete. It clearly is. There's clearly something there that Ridley Scott wanted to do, but he just couldn't do. Um, or at least like there was just something there that you know that is missing. But the overall effort in general uh, excuses that apparent flaw, that mystery almost of what that flaw is, because it's apparent when you watch it that there's like something is missing, um, but I can't really say what it is. So, um, so yeah, I love this movie. And I'm happy that we at least got a sequel. So, and apparently there was an anime series, but I heard it was shit. So, um, but yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on Blade Runner if you guys have seen it. Surprisingly, there's a few people that haven't seen it. Um, so hopefully you guys have seen it. I mean, it's fucking amazing. So, I mean, you guys let me know your thoughts on Blade Runner if you guys have seen it in the comment section below. And that's gonna be it from me, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.